In the north, the Arabian slave trade, a relentless 13th century campaign that claimed as many as 18 million souls. For the 7th century onward, tribal warriors were swept into a vortex of desert caverns and salt mines, where survival was measured in days. Then the tide turned. From the west, the transatlantic slave trade war unleashed a new kind of terror. 12 million people, fathers, mothers, children, shackled in the dark holes of the Middle Passage, bound for a new world they never asked for. They were stripped of their names, they were robbed of their tribes, but they were not erased. Today, a new generation is fighting back, using the power of modern DNA and ancestral memory. The descendants of the northern and the southern tribe of Yiqwaba are piercing together a broken history. The war for their bodies, centuries till now, the war for their identity has only just begun. Where are they? All right, Mashbaka Shalom, and I'm coming to you today. I got another classic from you, a classic from Harvard University. Harvard University. That is a well-known college built by the backs of our ancestors. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you. Boom, there it go right there. So for the people that say that we Black Americans and African Americans, I understand where y'all coming from. Please try to see where I'm coming from. All right. So this right here is called The Black Jews. It was written, published by the college, Harvard University. All right. The Black Jews. All right. So I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read some of it. Black Jews in Africa and in the Americas. The Nathan Huggins Lectures. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go up. Say Black Jews in Africa and the Americas. Tudor Prophets. Harvard University Press. Cambridge, Massachusetts. London, England, 2013. Copyright 2013, the President and Fellows of Harvard College, all rights reserved, printed in the United States of America, Library of Congress catalog in publication data. Parfit Tudor, Black Jews in Africa in the Americas, Tudor Parfit. PCM includes bibliographical reference and index. ISBN, okay, hardcover ALK paper, Jews, Africa, history. The reason why they say Jews is because the Romans didn't look to, preserve who everybody was. So they just called the southern tribe Jews or Jewish. But the southern tribe had Banya Yamayan, Yahbada, and it also had Lawai in there because Lawai was to be in both tribes. They the priest, the Kahan. For Olivia and Sebastian. All right, so we're going to read a little bit of this. So let's see where we're going to start. The color of the Jews, the color of the Judeans. So if you're talking about Yiqwaba's children, Yahweh is the fourth son. All right. Lawai is older than Yahweh in my recollection. Judah and Benjamin both came from dark-skinned women. As you can read inside of the scripture,
that Banya Yamayan was born unto Rachel, and Yehowadah was born through La'ah, all right? And they both came from Yiqwaba, okay? And then Lawai, his mother was the same mother of Yehowadah, and his father was the same father of Yehowadah, which is La'ah, all right? La'ah. So we're going to look at the color of Yehowadah. So whether if you're looking at Banya Yamayan, that's the his mother is the sister of Yehowadah's mother, which is La'ah. All right, so they both came from Laban, which means unclean dealer. All right, trickster, snake. And then you have Lawai, he came from the same mother as Yehowadah and the same father as Yehowadah. They were dark-skinned people. All right, the color of the Jews. So we're going to go to verse 1. Preface. That's the preface. We're going to go to verse 1. All right, so I guess we're going to start right here. The first encounter black Jews in what they call modern Hebrew is Shakor Yahudim. And ancient Hebrew is Shalkar Yehowadah. All right. First encounter, and then in Spanish is Negro Jews, and in Latin is nigger Jews, which means black, right here. So it's a first encountered black Jews in any form, as far as I am aware, on November the 22nd, 1984. That was the year my granddaddy died. November in 1984. My grandfather on my daddy's side passed away. His name was Ernest Lee Kennedy Jr. All right. His father's name was Ernest Lee Kennedy Sr. And the only records that I could find of them was on the plantation of Tipper in Mississippi. All right. But my granddaddy, when he was born in Clermont. All right. Granddaddy Ernest Lee Sr. But anyway, I just thought I should say that because I see November the 22nd, 1984. I was 2 years old. My grandfather died. Just hit 2 years old. Because I'm born in October, the Octubre. When I found myself on the Sudanese border with Ethiopia, I was then lectured in modern Hebrew at the School of Oriental and African Studies. And this encounter changed the direction of my future interests. I had been sent to Sudan, the London-based minority rights group, at the particular instigation of David Kistler. So this happened when I was 2 years old, Mashpaka, on the month my grandfather passed away, to look into accusations that Ethiopian Yahudim Falashas, which means foreigners, the Kawashim, the Ethiopians call them Falasha. They don't call them natives to that place. They call them Falasha. Or better, Israel were being poisoned in the refugee camps along the border. So when I was 2 years old, they was being poisoned, which were full of mainly Christian Ethiopians. And I reckon they mean Catholic Ethiopians, fleeing the terrible famine of that year On this day, I witnessed the arrival of a group of emaciated, wretched Beta Israel at the refugee camp known as Yiqwaba, and saw their bitter disappointment when it was explained to them that this poor makeshift camp was not as they imagined. Yerushalayim, these then were the first black Jews. Okay? So they say they were the first black Jews. And when you really look inside the Bible, sometimes they call the northern and the southern kingdom Jews. But we know, according to prophecy, that the southern and the northern kingdom are still divided. They're still two sticks. All right. So they did not call them Jews in order to preserve who they were. All right. But they called them Jews because they knew they were Israelites. I had come across, although, and this right here is a lot of controversy with a lot of people, because we have to provide evidence, archaeology, and everything, but some people don't have to provide none of that. They just say that who they is, and everybody give them billions of dollars and money for this and that and the other. But anyway, although their status as Jews was still being hostily contested, the other people that didn't have to have no proof or anything, they was contesting these people who were calling themselves Jews before Christopher Columbus hit America. They were calling themselves Israelites before Nebuchadnezzar came down. In Israel and elsewhere, later in the day, I glimpsed the first stages of the Israeli attempts to save thousands of these impoverished and desperate people from famine and persecution. A few months later, having just written a book on this event, Operation Moses, I'm gonna share a video underneath this about our brothers and sisters that left from America. But you do remember I showed you a book that was written in the 1700s of one of our ancestors saying that we are Israelites in diaspora. Whether if you were scattered in the islands, whether if you were scattered in, no matter where you were scattered at, our ancestors said that we are Israelites. Getting ready to cross back over Canaan. Back over to Canaan. Crossing back over to the Jordan. Operation Moses, I was invited to the University of Witwatersrand to give a paper of the Ethiopian Jews during my talk. So just because they were living in Ethiopia does not mean that they was Ethiopians by lineage. That means that they were Ethiopian citizens, all right, from the country Ethiopia, which is a lot of the inheritance of Kam's son Kawash. And the Kawasham are Shokar. They're dark skinned. They're black people, right? They're Shokar, all right? During my talk, which was attended mainly by members of the white Jewish community, I noticed that at the back of the hall there were some shabbily dressed black men wearing yarmulkes. When I spoke with them afterwards, they explained that they belong to the Limba tribe. So they go to the Limba tribe right there, the ones that dwell beyond the river of Cush. The Limba tribe is up there too. All right. And they thought of the Kawashiam Falasha, whose recent departure from Yasharallah had been the subject of great deal of media scrutiny in South Africa, elsewhere. That's why when you look in South Africa, a lot of South Africans look like diaspora. So a person from Puerto Rico can walk inside it, can go to South Africa. If they don't say nothing, if they don't hear that Hispanic tone in their vocals, they can't tell the difference. If a Negro from North America come down there to South Africa and they don't say nothing, they can blend right on in with all the rest of their brother and sister. All right? As elsewhere. And because of this kinship, because they kin to the Ethiopian Judeans, all right? They explain they could unequivocally claim to be genuine Israelites, which hitherto had been difficult to claim as they had little proof outside their oral traditions, so they say. All right, even though our ancestors wrote the Bible, we wrote all those books, we wrote a lot of books that was burnt in the Timbuktu library. We had a lot of history inside of the Alexandria library that we wrote down with our fingers, with our hands. But a lot of that was burnt. That library was burned in Timbuktu. Even those scrolls that they found in the caves of Qumran was being burnt, used for firewood. I was intrigued. Even the books inside of the temple was being burnt. So we did write down history. I was intrigued to see that the emaciated and desperate people I had seen in the Sudan the previous year were now acting as a legitimate model, as a proof community for others. But the idea that these men from Soweto had anything at all to do with the distinct Beta Israel, except perhaps in some metaphorical sense, seemed historically impossible or near impossible. And my incredulity, no doubt, was apparent to persuade me of their story. The men asked me to go with them up to their villages. In the Bible, they call where they lived at villages, not towns and stuff. They call it villages, villages. I heard a Israelite brother from Africa saying that they called the synagogue all right, and synagogue is from that language that the brother said he speak. He said he speak that language. The other people don't speak that language. That's why they say synagogue, but it's synagogue. All right. Synagogue. Sina. Remember the Limba? Sina, where they lived at in Sina. Synagogue. In the south, in the Spanberg Mountains, and to see for myself that there are links with Beta Israel of the Ethiopian mountains. The scriptures say, through the mouth of Messiah, flee ye into the mountains. The Ethiopian mountains, you can go through. You're going to have to, when you see the mountains, when you're going back to Africa from the lot of Judah, the southern kingdom, you're going to see the mountains of Kawashim, the Ethiopian mountains. And with the other Jews in the world were not just fragments of their historical imagination. Out of curiosity, I accompanied them to some of the Vinda villages, where they were small concentrations of Limba, and after a few days was fairly sure that even in the fact that the supposed link with the Beta Israel was ahistorical, and their customs and traditions had quite possibly something to do with the Semitic world in their distance. That's why we call ourselves Afro in diaspora, because we're Afro-Asiatic. Look up Afro-Asiatic and see what that means. Links had been with the Jews rather than the Muslims, it would have been surprising, because as far as I knew, there were no records of Jews ever having settled in southeastern or central Africa until very recent times. But it was evidence, because if people would have read the prophets, would have said that the children of Israel, of the northern tribe, went beyond the rivers of Cush. According to Ezra, they would be beyond the river of Cush until the last days. According to Zephaniah, they will be beyond the rivers of Cush until the last days. What's the river of Cush? That's the Nile River. The Nile River it flows throughout Africa. All right. When you go down beyond the river of Cush, you go down to Zimbabwe. You go over to West Africa. You go down to South Africa. And the Limba's oral traditions. The Limba claimed to be Jewish. As a matter of fact, when they came down there, they found our people with scrolls in their hand, burnt with iron, so that nobody can change what was written inside the scrolls. Our brother said that he presented a scroll. As a matter of fact, the first one to translate a proper translation into English from the Lashon Kodash is one of our brothers from diaspora from North America. He translated, so the English version that y'all have in y'all Bible, it was translated by our brother over there in Northeast Africa. All right. And you can look him up on the news, and he's talking about where is the true land of Yerushalayim. I share the true city of David. Where is it? I share the brother underneath this. He gonna tell you himself. Talking to the Shaikh, the Ishmaelite leader, the Ishmaelite chief, Rosh head. All right. Long before, from a distant city called Sina, as they said, Sina. And when you look at synagogue, it's synagogue. All right. Now, let's check this out. Who set up Great Zimbabwe, perhaps more than once, and moved into the areas around the famous Great Zimbabwe ruins in central Zimbabwe before Synagogue Zimbabwe before becoming scattered, as they put it, among the nations. My research took the form of journey. So, did the Europeans set up Great Zimbabwe, or did the Limba set up Great Zimbabwe? Can the Europeans say Zimbabwe with their vocals? Yes, they can. I heard them say it all across the news, all across History Channel, documentaries, all across this country, all across the world. They say Great Zimbabwe. They go and visit Zimbabwe. All right, and they can say it with their mouth, but they didn't establish it. Just because the Limba were victims of the slave trade that happened I believe it happened at Nebuchadnezzar when he came down, and they never returned back to their former estate. But the southern tribe was still there. All right, the southern tribe went into captivity. They came back. What we read about, they skip over a whole dynasty, and they jump right into the iron, and that's the Roman Empire. So they skipped over the Grecian Empire and jumped right on inside of the Iron Empire, which is the Latin Empire. All right. the Latin Empire. Then after they got out of the Latin Empire, we jumped right on inside of the Iron and Clay Empire. This is what we're in right now. And in the Iron and Clay Empire, a prophecy that the southern tribe would follow into captivity like his treasure. The children of Israel went first, according to Isaiah the prophet, and according to Jeremiah the prophet, and that the treacherous sister of Israel, Judah, went into captivity right after them. As you read inside of Revelations, that the dragon persecuted the woman that fled into the wilderness. The woman is Israel. All right. What woman, which was the last one to go? The southern tribe. So the woman went into Africa. All right. Messiah said they must be dispersed into every country of the earth. Some people look at it and they say, when they say they shall sell them and they shall not be bought. How can you sell them and they not be bought? The word for bought means redeem. When you redeem somebody, you're purchasing them. All right. A kinsman, a nearest of kin, has to purchase you. Yahushua blood was shed. He's the nearest of kin to you. He paid the penalty. All right. My research took the form of a journey, some of it on foot, which followed the path taken by the Limba. All right. That's all I'm finna read from that today. I just want to read some stuff to y'all and let y'all see that we not making some stuff up. This ain't some made up stuff that Negroes is going across everywhere saying. We're actually talking about something that is true, something that actually happened. All right. And I just want to leave off with this. Shalom, and tell me what y'all think about my outro that I made. Shalom. Thank you for spending time with me. Every story we share here is a piece of my journey and a piece of yours too. As we continue forward, may we hold on to the lessons for the memories, the quiet truths that shape who we are. Until we meet again, take care of your spirit and keep moving with purpose. Shalom, Mashpaka. Bahasham Yahabashah.